There are buildings that never turn their lights off. Not because they are busy. Not because people are working late. But because something inside them doesn't like the dark. Most people walk past such places without noticing. A glance. A moment. Then they forget. But some people notice too much. And once you notice, it notices you back. The night shift. Adil Khan had never liked night shifts. There was something about being awake when the rest of the world slept that made everything feel slightly unreal. The office building where he worked stood at the edge of the city. Tall. Glass-covered. Silent. During the day, it looked normal. Busy. Crowded. Alive. At night, it became something else. Empty corridors. Flickering lights. Echoing footsteps that didn't always belong to him. Still, it was just a job. And Adil needed it. That night started like any other. 11:47 p.m. He stepped inside the building, swiped his card, and walked through the lobby. The security guard nodded at him. Didn't speak. Adil found that strange. The guard always talked. Too much. Long night? Adil asked casually. The guard hesitated. Then said quietly, "Try not to stay too late tonight." Adil frowned. Why? The guard didn't answer. Just looked toward the elevators. And then looked away. The elevator. There were 3 elevators in the building. 2 of them were always in use. The third one stayed closed. Always. No one used it. No one talked about it. Adil had noticed it before, but never thought much of it. Until that night. He pressed the button. One of the active elevators should have come. But instead, ding. The third one opened. Adil froze. The doors slid apart slowly. Inside, everything looked normal. Too normal. Clean. Silent. Empty. He glanced back at the security guard. The guard was staring at him. Not blinking. Take the stairs, the guard said suddenly. Adil laughed nervously. It's just an elevator. The guard shook his head. Not that one. But Adil was already stepping inside. Because logic said it was just a machine. Nothing more. The first descent. He pressed his floor. 12th. The doors closed. The elevator moved. Up. For a second. Then it stopped. And began going down. Adil frowned. That's weird. He pressed the button again. Nothing. Pressed another floor. Still nothing. The panel flickered. Then a new number appeared. -1. The building didn't have a basement. Adil's throat went dry. The elevator kept descending. Slowly. Quietly. As if it had all the time in the world. The first stop. Ding. The doors opened. Adil didn't move. Because what he saw wasn't possible. A hallway. Long. Dimly lit. With walls that looked older than the building itself. Paint peeling. Lights flickering. Air thick and still. This isn't real, he whispered. No one answered. But something moved. At the far end of the hallway. A shadow. Standing. Watching. Adil quickly pressed the close button. The doors shut instantly. The elevator began moving again. The numbers change. The display flickered. -2. Adil's breathing became uneven. There is no level -2. The elevator didn't care. It continued. Lower. -3. The lights dimmed. A faint sound filled the space. Like whispering. Adil turned around. No one was there. But the whispers grew louder. Not random. Words. Almost understandable. Stay. Don't leave. It's better here. Stop. Adil shouted. The whispers stopped instantly. Silence. Heavy. Unnatural. The second stop. Ding. The doors opened again. This time. The hallway was different. Darker. The walls looked wet. As if something had been leaking for a long time. A smell entered the elevator. Rotten. Sick. Adil covered his nose. Close, close. But the doors didn't respond. Something moved outside. Closer this time. Slow footsteps. Dragging. Coming toward the elevator. Adil backed into the corner. His heart pounded so loudly. He was sure it could be heard outside. The footsteps stopped. Right in front of the door. But nothing entered. Nothing appeared. Just presence. Then. A voice. Soft. Right beside his ear. You shouldn't have come down. Adil screamed and hit the close button again. This time. The doors slammed shut. The realization. The elevator moved again. Faster now. The numbers changed rapidly. -4, -5, -6. Adil's hands were shaking. This is impossible. But deep inside, he knew. This wasn't an elevator anymore. It was something else. Something that had been waiting. For someone. To step inside. The third stop. The elevator stopped suddenly. No sound. No warning. The doors opened slowly. And this time, there was no hallway. Just darkness. Endless. Complete. Like the elevator had opened into nothing. Adil stared. His mind struggled to understand. How can there be nothing? Then, something moved inside the darkness. Not clearly. Not fully. Just enough to be seen. And to be feared. A shape. Too large. Too wrong. And it was. Coming closer. The shape in the darkness. Was getting closer. Not fast. Not rushing. Slow. As if it knew. There was nowhere to run. Adil couldn't move. His body refused. Every instinct screamed at him to look away. But he couldn't. Because the moment he tried, the darkness shifted. And the thing inside it moved faster. Adil slammed his hand against the control panel. Close. Close. The doors didn't respond. The shape was now closer. Too close. Still not fully visible. But enough. Long limbs. Bent the wrong way. A head. Tilted at an impossible angle. And eyes. Not glowing. Not shining. Just empty holes. Watching him. Then. It spoke. Not from its mouth. But inside his head. You saw it? Adil gasped. No. You came down. I didn't mean to. And now? A pause. A whisper. You stay. The doors slammed shut. The drop. The elevator fell. Not descended. Fell. Fast. Violently. Adil crashed to the floor. The lights flickered wildly. The panel went blank. No numbers. No buttons. Nothing. Just a black screen. The sound of falling continued. Longer than it should. Deeper than possible. Until finally, everything stopped. Silence. Complete. Level-infinity. The screen flickered once. Then showed something impossible. Not a number. A symbol. Infinity. Adil stared. What does that even mean? The doors opened slowly. This time, there was a hallway again. But different. Wider. Longer. And filled with doors. Hundreds of them. On both sides. Stretching into darkness. Each door identical. Except for one thing. Names. Written on them. Adil stepped out slowly. The air felt heavier here. Like breathing required effort. He walked toward the nearest door. His heart stopped. Because the name written on it was Adil Khan. No, he whispered. This isn't real. The doors. He turned. Every door had a name. Different names. Some scratched. Some faded. Some freshly written. He moved closer to another. Imran Qureshi. Sarah Malik. Bilal Ahmed. Hundreds. Thousands. All real names. All people. Then, one door creaked open. Slowly. Adil stepped back. From inside, a man walked out. Pale. Thin. Eyes empty. He looked at Adil. And smiled. You're new, he said. Adil couldn't speak. The man stepped closer. You shouldn't have taken that elevator. I didn't know. No one does. The man's smile widened. That's how it gets you. The truth of the floors. Adil swallowed. What is this place? The man tilted his head. This is where people go when they go too far down. Adil shook his head. This is impossible. The man laughed softly. That's what I said too. Before I realized. A pause. There is no going back up. The rooms. Adil pointed at the door with his name. What's inside? The man's expression changed. For the first time. Fear. Don't open it. Adil frowned. Why? The man stepped back. Because behind Adil, something moved. The Watchers. At the end of the hallway, figures appeared. Tall. Still. Watching. Dozens of them. Not human. Not fully visible. Just shapes. Standing. Waiting. They're coming, the man whispered. Who are they? The man didn't answer. Instead, he backed away. Toward his own door. You need to choose, he said quickly. Choose what? The man pointed. At Adil's door. Go inside? Or stay out here? Adil looked between the door and the approaching figures. What happens if I stay? The man's voice dropped. They take you. And if I go inside? A long pause. You become part of it. The choice. The figures were closer now. Their shapes clearer. Limbs stretching unnaturally. heads turning slowly. Adil's breathing became frantic. No, no, there has to be another way. The man shook his head. There isn't. The hallway grew darker. The air colder. The figures began to move faster. Not walking. Gliding. Adil turned toward his door. His name stared back at him. Waiting. He reached for the handle. Then hesitated. What's inside? He whispered. The man looked at him one last time. And said, You. The figures lunged. Adil opened the door. And stepped inside. The door closed behind him. Slowly. Silently. And the moment it shut, everything changed. The hallway vanished. The darkness shifted. And Adil found himself standing somewhere else. The room. It looked like his apartment. Not similar. Not close. Exact. Same furniture. Same walls. Same faint crack near the ceiling. Even the smell. The same. Adil's breathing became uneven. This isn't possible. He walked forward slowly. Everything felt real. Too real. He touched the table. Solid. Cold. Exactly like it should be. Then he saw it. On the wall. A mirror. And in it, himself. Standing. Breathing. Watching. But something was wrong. His reflection wasn't copying him. It was waiting. The reflection. Adil froze. Slowly. He raised his hand. The reflection didn't move. His heart skipped. No. The reflection smiled. Adil didn't. A cold wave ran through his body. You're not me, he whispered. The reflection tilted its head. Exactly like the thing in the hallway. Then it spoke. You took too long. Adil stepped back. No, no, this isn't real. The reflection laughed. Soft. Controlled. You still think you're outside? Adil shook his head violently. I am outside. The reflection leaned closer. Inside the mirror. And whispered. You stepped in the moment you pressed the button. The memory break. Suddenly. Adil's head throbbed. Sharp pain. Like something tearing inside. Images flashed. Fast. Broken. The elevator. The hallway. The doors. And then? Something else. Something he hadn't remembered before. Himself. Standing in front of the elevator. But not entering. Walking away. Choosing the stairs. Adil gasped. What? The reflection smiled wider. That was the first time. The loop. Adil staggered backward. What do you mean? The reflection's eyes darkened. You don't remember, do you? Remember what? The reflection stepped forward. And for a second, it looked like it was going to come out. You've been here before. Silence. Adil's heart pounded violently. No. Yes. You keep coming back. You keep choosing the elevator. And every time? A pause. You forget. The truth of the room. Adil's breathing became shallow. This is impossible. The reflection shook its head slowly. This is your room. But not the one you think. This one keeps what you leave behind. Adil stared. What did I leave? The reflection's smile faded. And for the first time, It looked serious. You. The realization. Adil's knees felt weak. No, no. I'm right here. The reflection stepped closer and placed its hand against the mirror. Adil noticed something. The hand was moving, perfectly synced. But his own hand wasn't. You're not the original anymore, the reflection said quietly. You're just what's left. The horror deepens. The lights flickered. The room began to change. Walls cracked. The ceiling darkened. The air thickened. Adil backed away. What happens now? The reflection smiled again. Now wider? More unnatural? Now we switch. Adil froze. What? The mirror began to ripple. Like water. Slowly. The reflection stepped forward. And this time, it came through. The replacement. Adil stumbled backward. The thing that looked like him now stood in the room. Real. Solid. Smiling. No, stay back. It tilted its head. Relax, it said calmly. You've done this before. Adil tried to run. But the door was gone. The walls were gone. Only darkness behind him. The thing stepped closer. And whispered. You go back, down. And I go up. The final moment. Adil screamed. But no sound came out. The darkness behind him opened. Like a mouth. Pulling. Dragging. He tried to hold on. But there was nothing to hold. The last thing he saw was himself. Standing still. Smiling calmly. As the elevator doors closed. Back in the building. Ding. The elevator opened. Ground floor. The security guard looked up. Adil stepped out. Calm. Normal. Smiling. You stayed late, the guard said nervously. Adil nodded. Yeah, he replied softly. Had to finish something. The guard hesitated. Then asked. You okay? Adil smiled wider. Too wide. Better than ever. Final line, deep voice. Some elevators don't take you down. They bring something else. Back up. The security guard didn't sleep that night. He had seen it before. Not many times. But enough to know. Something was wrong. The man who walked out of that elevator was never the same man who walked in. The guard's memory? His name was Rashid. He had worked in that building for 17 years. He knew every employee, every face, every habit. And he knew Adil. Quiet. Respectful. Normal. But the man who walked past him that night smiled too much and didn't blink enough. Rashid watched him leave. The glass doors opened. Closed. And for a moment, everything felt normal again. Then, the elevator button lit up. On its own. The return signal. Rashid slowly turned his head. The third elevator. The one that should never open. Lit up. Ding. The doors slid open. Empty. But not really. Because the moment they opened, the temperature dropped. The air changed. And Rashid heard it. Whispers. Faint. Desperate. Help. Don't. Not him. Rashid stepped back. No, he whispered. It's happening again. The list. From behind the reception desk. A small drawer creaked open. By itself. Rashid froze. Because he knew what was inside. A file. Old. Dust-covered. Filled with names. People who had used that elevator. And never came back. Or worse. Came back wrong. Rashid slowly walked toward it. His hands shaking. He opened the file. And flipped to the last page. There. A new name had appeared. Fresh. Written as if by an invisible hand. Adil Khan. Rashid closed the file instantly. Ya Allah, he whispered. The first incident. Years ago. The first time it happened. Rashid thought it was a malfunction. A man entered the third elevator. The doors closed. And never reopened. For hours. Then suddenly. They opened again. The man walked out. Smiling. Just like Adil. 2 days later. He disappeared. No trace. No record. No memory. Even his name. Was gone from company files. Like he had never existed. The pattern. It didn't happen often. Months would pass. Sometimes years. Then suddenly. The elevator would open again. Someone would enter. And something would return. Rashid had tried to warn people. But no one listened. Because during the day. The elevator didn't exist. Only at night. Only after midnight. Only when. It chose someone. Back to Adil. Rashid looked toward the exit. Where Adil had gone. No, he muttered. He won't last long. Because that's how it worked. The thing that came back. Couldn't stay forever. Not outside. It had to return. And when it did. It didn't go alone. The following night. 11:59 p.m. The building lights flickered. One by one. They turned on. Even in empty offices. Even on closed floors. Rashid sat at his desk. Watching. Waiting. Because he knew. It would happen again. And then. The doors opened. Adil walked in. But he wasn't alone. Something followed him. Rashid's heart stopped. Because behind Adil. There was something else. Not fully visible. Not fully real. But there. A shadow. Attached to him. Moving slightly out of sync. Like a reflection that didn't belong. Good evening, Adil said calmly. Rashid didn't reply. He couldn't. Because Adil's eyes. Were wrong. Too still. Too empty. The conversation. You stayed late yesterday, Rashid said carefully. Adil nodded. Yeah. How was the work? A pause. Adil smiled. Productive. Rashid swallowed. What floor? Adil tilted his head. And said something that froze Rashid's blood. I don't remember going up. The shift begins. The lights flickered again. The elevator button lit up. By itself. Adil turned slowly. And looked at it. Like something calling him. Not again, Rashid whispered. Because this was new. They usually didn't come back so soon. But this time. It was different. This time. The thing that came back. Wanted more. The invitation. The elevator opened. Dark inside. No light. Just emptiness. Adil stepped forward. Slow. Calm. Like he belonged there. Rashid stood up suddenly. Stop. Adil paused, turned his head slightly, and smiled. You should come too, he said softly. Rashid stepped back. No, no. But the shadow behind Adil moved and stretched, reaching toward him. The pull. The air grew heavy. The whispers returned. Louder now. Bring him. We need more. Not enough. Rashid's legs trembled. He tried to move, but couldn't. The shadow wrapped around the floor, crawling toward him, like liquid darkness. Adil stepped inside the elevator, turned back, and extended his hand. Come, he said. Not asking. Commanding. The final resistance. Rashid grabbed the desk, holding on. I won't go. The shadow tightened, pulled harder. The drawer opened again. The file fell out, pages flipping wildly. Names everywhere. Hundreds. Thousands. And then, one blank space appeared, waiting for the next name. Final line, deep voice. Some elevators don't choose floors. They choose people. And once they choose you, they don't stop until they have enough.